An author, a mother, a passionate writer, and her book, Hush. Today, live with Kimberly, here on The View from a Pew on KTIA, Iowa.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
4 minutes after the hour on this, the 25th day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and welcome to the Friday edition of The View from a Pew. Maddie is not here, so it'll be a little less fun because Maddie's not here. Bob's not here because he's getting married tomorrow. Or no, he's not getting married.
His daughter.
His son. It's his son who's getting married. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Ryan's watching the chat, and of course we have none other than The Voice. Frank, who's got his own show coming up at 5:30?
Yes.
What's it about today?
I think we'll be talking about borders and the
the bookstore?
No, borders as in our southern border.
Oh.
And the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
You know, I had the most interesting conversation on Facebook today with a man who, I'm just going to take him for his word. He's a doctor in Pakistan. And I don't know how he got a hold of me, but he immediately messaged me. And he wanted to know what I thought about the conflict over there. And we had a very nice conversation, but he was clearly pro-Palestine, and I was clearly pro-Israel.
Didn't you say something that he was sympathetic to Hamas?
Yes. See, because you know what they're doing over there. They're taking all the kids, and they're holding them hostage inside of schools. Where they're storing their weapons.
And launching missiles.
Yeah. And so he was, they're killing children. Well, it's called war, you know?
Well, some people want a two-state solution, but this goes back to David and Goliath, and it's about like putting a rattlesnake and a scorpion in a glass cage. Something's going to die.
Well, I think we go back to 1964 and we kick Gaza, make that Jerusalem again and Israel, and just say, let's be done with it. We tried for 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah.
50 years.
Since
to get
1948.
Along. 48, okay, to get along. So, anyway, but that's not what we're talking about today.
No.
We're talking about something much dearer to my heart, and that is the life of an unborn child. And I want to introduce you to Kimberly Shursen.
It is Shursen.
Okay, Kimberly, hi.
Hi.
Can I call you Kim or Kimberly?
Kimberly.
Okay. And you and I have known each other a long time. In fact, you reminded me today the first time we met when I was on 98.3, you and Scott Smith came in.
That's correct.
And talked about a play you had written, a musical play for the Pella Theater.
Well, yeah, it was written, but it wasn't written for the Pella Theater, but that's where we put it.
That's what they were doing. Yeah, I remember that. And you have, now, have you always been an author?
I've always been a writer.
Okay.
So it wasn't until after the second play and after I left my job as director of marketing for post-acute centers that I decided to start writing full-time.
Okay. Now, is there a difference between an author and a writer?
No.
No. Okay. So what do you love about writing? I mean, well, first of all, I want to ask this question.
Okay.
Because my image of writers only comes from movies. Okay. And I think one of my favorite movies is the one where she beats James Caan on the bottom of the feet.
Oh, Misery.
Misery.
Ah, Kathy Bates.
Yeah. And he's out there writing. He goes to stay with her to write this book.
Right.
And I have a neat friend whose name I'm Dr. Del Tackett.
Okay.
And I tried to get a hold of him about a month ago, and well, he was off in the middle of nowhere writing.
I hope he's not with Kathy Bates.
No, I don't think so.
That would not be good.
So what's your environment when you're writing?
Well, up until probably a year ago, it was pretty quiet. But I did have a son that moved in, which is great because Anthony and I, my middle son Anthony, is very creative and very quiet too. So I usually get up at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And at 5 o'clock in the morning, I start marketing until 7 because I haven't queried agents. I'm not into traditional publishing. It's very difficult if you're not very well known to find an agent. So I'd rather spend my time writing than trying to query an agent, come up with some cutesy kind of a letter that makes him want to read it or her.
Okay.
So I start marketing from like 5 until 7, and that can consist of anything from maybe being on a website where I'm marketing my book or making friends with people that are interesting, that might find me interesting. And so at 7 o'clock, by 7 o'clock, I'm writing, and I usually write straight through until about 2:30, and then I take a break. And then after that, I kind of fiddle around later when my mind is fried by that time. I may do a little marketing later, but I treat it as a job. So every day, it's an 8-hour job for me.
Now, I hear about what they call writer's block. And if I understand it correctly, it's where the creative juices just aren't flowing, and you're not able to write, especially the book or the story that you're writing. Do you ever suffer from that?
I haven't. And actually, Mac, I just wrote an article on that for a book tour that I'm going on starting, I believe it's August 16th, which is a virtual book tour. So I'll be going to 30 different websites in 30 days, and they wanted me to write 3 articles. And the title of it is Help, I'm Stuck in the Middle and I Can't Get Out.
Okay.
And basically, I guess I've never had writer's block because as you've read Hush, there's always a secondary plot going on. So as you build, for me, I can't just write about one story. It has to interweave together. So as you build a story, you've got so much information to build upon with multiple stories that weave in together that I've never had writer's block.
Now,
I'm lucky.
When you're writing the story, do you know the ending?
Sometimes I think I do, but a lot of times it comes out a lot different. I may envision the ending, but I don't know the words I'm going to use.
Okay.
So,
have any of your books ever ended up completely opposite of where you thought they would, and that's because that's where the story took it?
yes, Lottery actually is the one I just finished. This just went out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble last week. Lottery changed because the story was exciting. It started to get longer and longer, and it's it's a psychological thriller, and I wanted to bring it back. And so I had to come up with an epilogue that brought it back so that I could bring another book out.
Wow. And Lottery is going to be a 3-part series?
Well, 2 for sure now. This
Okay.
is the cover to that.
Yeah.
2 for now.
Okay. By the way, if you'd like to call in and talk to Kimberly or ask her any questions, you may do so at 1-855-244-0077. We've got that on the screen for those of you watching or listening on the radio. It's 855-244-0077. Your questions and comments are welcome.
When you write, do you find that you have a general thesis that you're got in mind that you're writing about, or does thoughts kind of spur other thoughts?
No, absolutely. I know where I'm going. One of the questions they asked me on this tour is, something about, will you always write, for the rest of your life, or will you quit and retire? And I have so many stories that I dream about and think about, and they are finished. They're like a dream from beginning to end. I just don't know where my characters are going to go.
Are they primarily fiction?
They are ripped from the headlines. Could be ripped from the headlines. They're always based on something that could really happen. Always.
But names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Well, no, they're not even people I know, but they're snippets of personalities I know, or snippets of people that I've known before, or situations such as Hush that I've discussed with people before. And then I put all these thoughts together and come up with a book.
I just think it's fascinating. I've always wanted to write a book, but I have I don't say this self-deprecating, but I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm not. I don't have the skill to write something.
That's where you're wrong, because I'm not the smartest woman in the world. But I think whatever you're passionate about, you will find a way to do.
Well, see, I'm so afraid that I will write as I speak, because I do know how to speak.
Right.
And I'll write as I speak, and I'm not sure that's comfortable reading.
Absolutely comfortable reading. The worst thing that you can find if you get an editor, and I know that you're going to have a book coming out about you, I think
Yeah.
you said. The worst thing you can do is have an English teacher do anything with your books. Really, honestly. Because I don't come up to you and say, "Hi, Mac, how are you doing today?" I'll say, "What's up?"
Yeah.
Or what's shaking bacon,
Yeah.
or whatever. I won't talk in full sentences any more than the average person would say. So you need to make a conversation real. And I think that's one of my strengths is my conversations in my book, that people can identify with them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't read a lot, okay? I'm an auditory person, but I read this book, and first of all, thank you for the big print. I very much appreciate that. And the second thing is you didn't write in paragraphs, you wrote in thoughts,
Right.
and that's the way I would write.
I made you read that.
Well, you didn't make
I
me.
bugged you.
Well-
Mac, you got to read this. You got to read this.
I had a responsibility to read this, and you'll find out a little bit later.
Right.
Okay, throw your headphones on.
Okay.
And we're going to take a phone call.
Sounds good.
We are going, okay. I don't
On. I don't think these are on.
He'll get it for you.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, you're live on the air. Who's this?
My name's Jane.
Jane? All right, Jane, hold on. We're going to get some audio fixed here.
Okay.
Can you hear now?
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Kim. Jane Hutfliss.
Hi, Jane, my high school friend I haven't seen since high school.
Really?
Yeah.
And she just happens to be listening today?
Well, I happened to tell her. I went on Facebook and, hey, Jane, you know what? Mac is from Beatrice.
Oh,
Isn't that amazing?
Small world, Jane.
yes, it is. Yes. How much time does it take for you to research before you write your novels? Because there's a lot of research involved.
Well, you know what? Thank you for asking. Because I probably spend almost as much time researching as I do, especially for Hush, as I do writing. I started researching Hush probably 3 months before I wrote Hush, started writing Hush. So there was a lot of research for this book and a lot of legal research. I didn't want to get stuck in the middle and have a lawyer go, no.
Yeah.
So I did pay for legal advice online. And I also, the story was set not only in Minneapolis where I lived, but it was also set in Lake Geneva, Switzerland, and I've never been there. So I did walk the streets on the net. And you can walk the streets on the net, which is really interesting. So there was a lot of research, Jane.
Well, they're wonderful books. I'm
Thank you.
anxious to read Lottery.
Well, I'm anxious to hear what you think.
Okay.
Where do you live now, Jane? Are you still in Hastings?
I am in Omaha.
Omaha. All right. One of my favorite towns.
Oh, mine too.
All right, Jane, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane.
So now, okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Kim.
Bye.
Kimberly Shursen is our guest today, and she is an author. And her latest book is now available on Amazon, and it's called Lottery. The book that we're talking about today is a book called Hush. And Hush stands for something.
It does. It does. Hush is a silent protest, and it is the brainchild of Mac McConaughey, who is a lawyer. And it stands for Helpless, Unborn, Silent Human Being. And the reason he came up with this is because Anne Ferguson, who married Ben Grable in the book, was rocking her unborn child, and she always sang Hush Little Baby every night. So he came up with this campaign called Hush.
All right, we're going to hear about the book. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to call 1-855-244-0077. That's on the screen. For those of you radio listeners, it's 855-244-0077. So what is Hush about, and why did this book particularly catch my fancy? It's not probably the reason you think it is, because I'm very passionate about the unborn, very passionate. And I look forward to discussing this book and some of the things in it. It was very well written, by the way.
Thank you.
Really well written. And I'm not just saying that, because I wouldn't have to.
I know.
Okay. All right, we're taking a break. The voice, Frank, is here. and Kimberly's here, and Jerry's here, and Ryan's here, and I'm here, and I'm glad you're here, live here on The View from a Pew.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the hour on this 25th day of July in the Lord's year 2014. This reminder, if you're here in central Iowa, the Taste of Hope is all day tomorrow at Hope Lutheran Church of Hope, and that is at Ashworth and Jordan Creek Parkway. It is free, fun, games, food. It's a great day for the kids. We'll probably serve, somewhere around 15,000 cheeseburgers, along with everything else that they'll have there. So it's absolutely free, and then it wraps up with fireworks that night. So you're welcome to come by, and no charge. Just come on by and meet some other Jesus freaks. All right, my guest today is Kimberly Shursen, and she is an author, and her latest book is called Lottery, but this was your second book?
Second book,
all right.
correct.
The spider thing was the first one, right?
Spider thing was the first one.
The itsy bitsy spider.
The itsy bitsy spider.
And here, let me see that. And for those of you listening, I'm sorry about this, but I need to show you. That is a woman's neck, and that is a big, ugly spider.
That is a big, ugly spider.
And I don't know about you, but I don't do spiders well.
But it isn't about a spider. It's about the song, Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Is that a tarantula?
Well, I assume so. But I didn't really ask it what it was.
Tell me it was plastic.
Yeah, it was plastic. It just shows how a problem can get bigger than than it really is.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to talk about her book, Hush, which she wrote, and it's a topic I'm passionate about because it's the protection of an unborn life and what HUSH stands for. But we've got another caller, so let's take him. John, you're live in The View from a Pew. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm calling you from Scottsdale, Arizona, where it's 108 degrees.
Oh my, it's so much better here. It's like 83.
Oh, it's nice.
But it's a dry heat.
Yeah, right.
John Vodder, meet Mac McCoy.
Hello, Mac. I met Kimberly in Minnesota, and they told us there it's a dry cold, but when it's 108, it's hot. So
now, if I understand it, you reviewed one of her books?
Yes, and you know you can. No, I've reviewed both of them, and
okay.
You know you can. You rate a book 1 to 5 stars. You know that.
Yes.
And I rate HUSH 8 stars.
Wow.
And the reason is I've been a minister for a long time. I've dealt with the issue of abortion and the pro-life issue a lot. And it's not always an easy issue. There was research done by an industrial psychologist in Memphis, Tennessee, who, talking to hundreds of women, said it's not just an issue of I've been immoral and I want to get rid of this unborn child, but my husband doesn't know I'm pregnant. We can't afford another child. And so they're really difficult issues. And that's one of the things that I like so much about Kimberly's book, is that she really wrestles with and writes brilliantly, I think, about the issue of what people go through and how tough the struggle is. And that's why I rank the book so highly, plus the fact that she's a wonderful writer, a first-class writer.
I don't read a lot of books, but I read this one, and my wife my wife also read it, and she enjoyed it. Now, John, let me ask you this. You being a pastor, I bet you've heard some of the worst excuses in the world to get rid of an unborn child. What about the fact that this baby is made by God, placed there by God, and the only thing the man and the woman do is literally get together? How do you reconcile with someone who wants to kill an unborn child of God?
Well, that's a very good question, and not all born-again Christian theologians or pastors would say that that baby is created by God. Many would say that there's sperm and an egg, and if you put them together, something's going to happen. So I think we have to be careful saying that. But again, and one of the reasons why I like HUSH so much, in addition to the fact that Kimberly's my friend, is because she really wrestles with the issues that people face, and she helps people understand that the emotions are really high, and sometimes they're difficult decisions. I know a young lady, well, she's not so young anymore, who had an abortion in her early life and now spends quite a bit of her own time talking to groups of young women saying, I had an abortion, here are the effects emotionally and spiritually on me. Don't get yourself in that position where you have to make the tough decision that I made.
Yeah, I've interviewed many victims of abortion, both the survivors and those that chose to have one, and their lives are changed forever. There's a sadness and a solemnness within that woman's heart and the man's. I had the opportunity to interview a man who had his girlfriend get an abortion when she was a senior in high school, and he's 45 years old, and it still drives him nuts today.
Yeah,
Frank?
John, I maybe just clarify Mac's question maybe to what I think I heard. Would you agree that the lives are created in the image of God?
Yes.
Not that God put them there, but but it's lives that are in the image of God, and as men and women, do we have the decision capability to make those kind of choices of something that really should be better left to God?
Well, no, I don't think we have the right to make those decisions, and that's why I'm pro-life. But the point I'm trying to make, and not only because Kimberly is my friend, is that people really wrestle with these decisions, and that's what I think the brilliance of her book is. For example, I have a fraternity brother from the University of Oregon years ago. He and his wife had an abortion. He came to his senses, and they, some years later, even after they divorced, went where they thought the baby's remains had been buried and had a little private funeral there for that unborn child. Also, certainly I won't mention any names, a woman doctor in one of the churches I served told me that she was taking in a hospital a woman's medical history one day in preparation for surgery, and she said, "Have you had any other procedures or surgeries done?" And the lady blanched, and she said, "May we shut the door?" And so the doctor said yes, and this woman said to the female doctor, "I've had an abortion, and you're the first person to know. I can trust you because you're a woman." So it's easy to say, well, it's God created the child. The beauty of this book is it helps people wrestle with and shows what people wrestle with when they're making a decision, and that's why I like the book so well. It's not just this is wrong and therefore don't do it. And also, I think we forget sometimes that this is not the unpardonable sin. Unpardonable sin is giving to Satan the credit that goes to God. Right. And that's why, in addition to being a brilliant writer, Kimberly was just brilliant in how she brought this all together and how it affects the whole family. So, but listen, I'm a preacher, and I've taken too much of your time, so you have every right to say, okay, go
John,
back
I'm
outside,
so appreciative that you called in. I'm so appreciative. Actually, John Votter baptized my youngest son 32 years ago. So that's how long we've been friends.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends. And John, how long? Oh, the last time we saw each other was at my children's father's funeral. So that was 5 years ago. But we keep in touch often. And I know his children, he knows mine, and I trust him implicitly. So I'm so glad you called in, and thank you for reviewing the book, John.
Do you ever come back to Central Iowa or the Midwest?
We're trying to get him at Hope.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him at Hope and talking to you about it, so we'll have to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. I'd love to have you on the show.
I'd love that. Plus, I'd love to come in January when it's 80
Absolutely.
degrees out here in Arizona.
We'd love to have you. All right, John, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks, John.
Appreciate you very much. Thank you, sir. All right, Kimberly Shursen. Hush. Hush again stands for...
Now I got to think again. The first word, helpless, unborn, silent human being.
Okay.
Not to try to take the show from you, but I don't want readers to be dissuaded by, this is not a Christian book. This is not going into theology on abortion. This is strictly taking two people that happened to fall in love through no fault of their own, opened a piece of paper, and ended up on opposite sides of the courtroom. So, falling in love was not a mistake, but it ended up being a mistake. So I don't want to give away the book, but this gives an idea of how our past value system that we're taught, and these two people happen to be raised by separate families, one by a minister and the other one by a very pragmatic man who wasn't that Christian. It's from our past experiences that I feel we are molded into how we feel and what we do with our lives.
All right, now, will you expose any more of the book?
I will.
Do you want to?
No, I can do that because there's a lot more to the book that I'm not going to expose.
Okay, well, we've got 2 minutes before we take a break.
Sure.
So tell me about these two people that fall in love.
Anne Ferguson is a pediatric nurse. She loves kids, and she's been raised in a small town in southern Minnesota, which is, now I'm trying to think what it was, the turkey capital of the world. What's the turkey capital of the world in Minnesota?
I don't have
In a small town, and her father, she was adopted.
Gobble, gobble, USA.
Yeah, I can't remember exact. Gobble, gobble, USA. But her father is a minister, and she was raised by them, adopted. Ben Grable is a lawyer, and what he does all day, every day in the courtroom is protect children. He's a family lawyer, but he protects children. They meet. They fall in love. They've got so much in common. They're both dark-haired, dark-eyed. It's just like a match made in heaven. They're both 28 years old. They've waited for a while to find the right choice in a mate. And it isn't until after they're married that Ben exposes that to Anne, that he didn't want to tell her because his father was very protective of him and he's his son, that he also was adopted. Not until Anne becomes pregnant does she say to Ben, you know what, just because of our child and the fact that we're having a child, we want to know the history of both of our families. So he opens his adoption papers, she starts to read them, and she looks at the name of the mother, and the mother's the same as hers.
So they're brother and sister.
They're actually paternal twins. One was born a day before the other. So Anne was born before midnight and Ben was born after midnight. So they had separate birthdays. They didn't have birthdays on the same day. So who would have thought, they could have been related the same year. They couldn't be brother and sister. But there are many people out there, and I'll tell you a backstory later, that do not search for their birth parents. And many birth parents close the file. You don't know whether you have brothers and sisters. You don't know whether you have half brothers and sisters. How common could it not? Very common. But what are the odds of two people meeting because they have so much in common, because it's genetic, of not falling in love?
Kimberly Shursen is our guest today. She is the author of the book Hush, Hush. And I'm not a reader. And so when I do read a book, I have to do little tricks so I can grasp it. And one of my little tricks is I have to read out loud. And so I read this book out loud. What did it take me? It took me a couple weeks, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's 363 pages. It's
yeah,
long.
but it's big print.
It's not big print. It's a 12-point Georgia. But it looks bigger because I don't use a 10-point Times.
Well, I call it bigger print. All right, Frank's here. Ryan's producing. Kimberly's our guest. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and if I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. I couldn't do it without you. When we come back, more on Hush. And what's the courtroom battle? And what's the decision? We won't tell you the decision because you're going to have to read the book. But we will get you in the thick of it, as I like to say, here on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershad.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's gotta be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
We're the ones in the pew, not pulpit. Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Pastor Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church with True Blue, his radio program from 4 to 4:30 this afternoon. One of the things that I am so passionate about is I'm passionate about the unborn child.
Right.
And what most people think or assume, it's because I'm a Jesus freak. And that's not the reason at all.
I know.
The reason is when I was adopted. And when I was 18, I found my biological mother. And she told me that had Roe versus Wade been the law in 58 rather than 73, right. I was conceived in 58, she would have aborted me.
Right.
Now, she's an amazing lady. She went on to do great things in her life. And I am her only child. She never had another child. And so that's the one reason. And so you have the thing about the pro-life, but you also have now with, as we just talked about this, we have adoption also entering in to the book Hush.
Correct. Yeah, and one of the lots of the pieces of information that you and I sat down and talked about went into this book, and as well as after my husband passed away, 3 years later, I started dating a man that was adopted, and he didn't have the opportunity to meet his biological parents because they sealed the adoption. So there's a lot of interesting things that went into this book, but basically, I've met a lot of adopted people, and I've also, as you know, I dig as deep as I can before somebody says, hey, stop it. I want to know the feelings of everything that happens in life. I'm a student of people, and you remember, I asked you, did she get married again? Did she do that? And you told me all these answers. You were very open about it. And I do that with basically anybody. This is a book that I was passionate about. Itsy Bitsy Spider and Lottery are thrillers, dead thrillers. Now, there are thrills in this book, but it isn't as deep. It's deeper, I would say, when it comes to the matter of a social issue.
Well, and the passion of the lawyer.
Right.
I mean, this is a who. I'm trying to think of somebody on TV. This is not a Perry Mason kind of just slowly get up and then grab you. This is somebody who pounds his fist.
Absolutely.
And he is
Mac McCoy.
McConaughey.
He's Mac McCoy.
Yeah, well, maybe.
Hallelujah.
But and from that standpoint, I really enjoyed it because this guy was going to take no feces from nobody.
Mac, you know that this book, and I've already told you that this book is based on your passion. And it isn't just your passion, it's my passion. I mean, passionate people are interesting people, let's face it. And you know, when your passion comes out as you're almost ready to hit somebody, but you're not, you just want to get your point across. And Mac, you're that kind of a personality. So Mac played a huge influence in how I wrote this book.
Well, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
So you've got this couple who's in love. And they have a child on the way, and they discovered that they're fraternal twins.
That's correct.
Where does the lawsuit come about? What are the two different sides that are at work here?
The prologue of the book goes way back to like 1984 or something. I can't remember for sure. When Ben Grable is taken to a nursing home to see his grandmother. And his grandmother is starting to fade, and all of a sudden he says to his dad, hey, I'm going to walk down the hall. He's like 10 years old. He goes down the hall, and in this place are a couple of closed doors that you can see through, the windows. Mm-hmm. And he looks through, and he sees that there are children and adults in there that look like monsters. I mean, they're drooling, and their heads are moving around, and some are in diapers, and some are holding bottles, and the nurses are, and he's just absolutely devastated. He can't figure out what these people are doing here. Why are they aliens? He's 10 years old. So he feels a pat on his shoulder. He jumps, and it's a nurse, and she said, some people are born this way. Well, why aren't they with their parents? Well, their parents couldn't take care of them. This is when Ben started to feel that there are some people in life that shouldn't have to live in pain and agony and not know what life is about. So here he is about ready to become a father, and Anne isn't 3 months pregnant, and he knows that a brother and sister, although they're paternal, so it'd be like if you were my brother and I married you. So it's not like maternal twins who share the same genes, the same exact identical genes. You can, however, get the same genes, and maybe some of them are mutated. And it's hard to explain. And if I were a doctor, I could do it better.
Is that his fear that he's going to have a
absolutely. That
mentally deficient child?
Not just mentally. You're talking spinal bifida. You're talking Tay-Sachs that eats brain cells and neurons and the spinal cord. You're talking about the probability is much greater if you're brother and sister to retain mutated genes that are always in anybody. But sometimes those genes come together. And he says, why risk? Why bring a child into this world that has so much to contend with already?
And then Anne says, I'm
raised by a minister. I don't believe in this. This is God's will.
Frank's in the studio today. Frank, a question?
So Mac's contention is in the book.
Mac's contention is he is Anne's lawyer.
He's pounding the desk that Ben intends on killing the child, and he don't think the others know that?
I'm sorry.
He's not sure that Anne realizes that.
He's Anne's lawyer.
Right.
Mac McConaughey is Anne's lawyer.
But he's not sure she's aware of Ben's intentions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
yeah, from the beginning.
It's horrible.
It's under a father's rights, and I have to take a long time to explain this because I had to explain, a lawyer had to explain. It's under a father's rights issue.
Right.
But the reason he goes for father's rights is because he wants to go have a say in whether the child is born. So he is representing Anne.
Sure.
And the other lawyer's in it because this is a lot of attention.
Now, when I was reading some of your book, it talked about this decision that has split the country.
Right.
But you're not getting into a theological debate in the book on the abortion issue. But the outlier is that this issue of abortion has divided the country in two.
Roe versus Wade.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who was in Roe, as we was speaking, has since changed and converted that she says that it was the biggest mistake of her life to do that. So does this book ultimately come down with any moral, for the lack of a better word, any moral absolutes on abortion?
No. And I tell you why I say that, and I was very careful about this. I feel that we are responsible for our own decisions to God. I don't think I'm responsible to you. I don't think I'm responsible to Mac. I don't think Ann is. I don't think Ben is. I think basically when we become Christian and we are saved, there are going to be times, no matter how Christian and how well we walk our walk and talk our talk, we're always going to make wrong decisions or right decisions. It could be that a woman has aborted and said that was the right decision for me and my child. That's not up to me to make a moral decision or a moral judgment. This book was to say, hey, somebody doesn't want a child to come into the world because they could have Tay-Sachs and by the time they're 5 years old, be dead. This person says, I'm Christian. Everybody has the right to respect everybody else's opinion. It had to go through court, and that's the way the legal system is. But I didn't want this to get into an issue as you're wrong, you're right. I wanted it to be open so that people read it and said, I had an abortion. I wish I hadn't have. But I did have a reason to do this, and it might not be the right reason, and I need to talk to God about it, but I didn't want it to be that way.
Kimberly Shursen is our guest today. She is an author. Her second book is Hush. Her first book was Itsy Bitsy Spider, and her latest book, the first in a series, called Lottery, and she's just a really good author, and I wanted her to come on today and kind of lay this book out. Now, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're only going to have about 8 minutes.
Okay.
So whatever, things that we need to talk about, let's make sure that we do that. And I wanted to tell your pastor something because I thought he'd get a kick out of this. I'm no longer pro-life. I'm pro-choice. I think man and a woman should choose to keep their legs together until they're ready to have the consequences of that action. So I've switched to pro-choice,
There
just
you
so
go.
you know. No, I'm kidding.
There you go.
I'm just trying.
Play a words.
Yeah. All right. We're coming back live here with Kimberly Shursen, Frank the Voice, Ryan, and me here on KTIA, Iowa.
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Hey, what's wrong? Logan wants Let's Rock Elmo for his birthday, but since Steve lost his job, I don't think we can afford it. What did you do for money last year when you and John were struggling to make ends meet?
My secret? I went to Me and Mommy-to-Be. We sold all of Megan and Ryan's clothes and toys there. They give back the highest percentage on their items in the area, and it was so easy.
Megan's clothes? She's 15.
Yes, they can sign newborn through trendy teens. We're not struggling now, but I'm going to keep saving and making money at Me and Mommy-to-Be.
We've got questions. You've got the answer. Join the conversation. It's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 minutes for the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Pastor Michael Mudloff with Chris Roloff on True Blue from Westkirk Presbyterian Church here on 99.3 KTIA. My guest today is Kimberly Shursen. She is a local author and writer, and her second book is a book that I'm passionate about because of the tough subject. And again, you're going to tell me it's 12 point something or another. I'm going to tell you that I appreciated the fact that the print was bigger.
I do too. I think that it opens up a lot of possibilities for people to read.
Well, and you write the way I talk. And what that means is if there's a statement you want to make, that's the only thing on that line. Right. And then you might even skip a space and come down, and so that statement's made. Now, there was a part of this book called The Silent Scream.
That's correct.
Without giving it away, can you kind of share that with the listeners?
Actually, I think it's something everybody should watch, and I'm trying to think who sent that to me. Newscaster, Patrick. Oh, Patrick, on Facebook, he's a friend of yours. Patrick, he used to do the cars in the morning. A great guy. And he said, if you're writing this book, I want you to write this, and it's called The Silent Scream. And it was by a guy named Dr. Bernard. You can see it on the net. Nathanson is his name, Nathanson.
Yes.
Bernard Nathanson. And I watched it. I actually could not make it through. And Dr. Nathanson was he did abortions all day, every day. Mm-hmm. That's what he did.
Yep.
All day, every day.
Yep.
And, as soon as the ultrasound became very popular, he decided that he was going to ultrasound and see this abortion. And I'm watching this on the net, and I'm like, oh, my heart. I mean, after that day and after he watched that video, he never performed another abortion.
Right.
Never. Because as he saw his instrument poking into the womb The child reared back,
Right.
trying to get away from this instrument that was going to kill it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it wasn't maybe 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, maybe not even that. But then he had to go back in, and the head is too large to bring out, so you have to use a suction.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this video, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm not suggesting anybody watch it or go in and feel guilty if you've had abortions. Certainly, I know a lot of people who've had abortions, and I love them to death, and there was a reason for that. So, I don't suggest that you watch this unless you're writing a book called Hush, and then, you can watch it.
It's a very, very, very disturbing.
Very disturbing.
You could be the biggest pro-life or pro-choice person. It doesn't matter. And that movie, the clip called The Silent Scream, will absolutely send you to a new place.
A couple of short questions.
Sure.
Did you take any kind of creative writing classes?
I did not. I've been writing in my head since I was like 2. I'm not kidding. When I was in first grade, I stood up and I said, and this went through my mind. I'm sure I was a liar too, but I said, we have no stove. We have no food in our house, a town of 2,000, and we started getting knocks on our door, and people brought food out. And I've been creative all my life.
The other question is, you mentioned the silent scream. Do you think it is something, in your personal opinion, aside from the book, that you would recommend for women contemplating?
No.
Abortion, let's see.
Well, as the book states, it is a personal decision. If anything was taken out of this book that I wanted to come across, is the court should get out of the way. It's between the person and God, and whoever their higher power is, or whoever they're speaking with. To me, this is a decision that needs to be made, a personal decision.
But this is about fathers' rights too.
It's a lot of things that it's about.
It's not just about.
No, it's mother's rights. It's father's rights. There's a lot of things involved.
Well, the court's going to be the only thing that's going to be able to get in there and intercede for the father.
Right now, yeah. Unless they just say the abortion doesn't have anything to do with the courts.
You think that's possible?
It was before Roe versus Wade. I don't think anybody went to courts and asked if they were going to have an abortion then.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mac. And like I said, I was passionate about writing the book for several reasons. But as I got into it, and then also, you haven't gotten this far yet, but do you remember the pharmaceutical company?
Yeah.
And do you realize that rubella was actually made from aborted fetuses? Because the women in the 1950s were being exposed to rubella, measles.
Right.
And these aborted fetuses were bought. And they took the serum from the exposed fetuses to make the vaccination that we had.
You and I had.
Right.
Well, I would encourage anyone to check out the book, and best way for folks to get a hold of you is on Facebook, I would imagine.
Facebook and www.kimberlyshursen.com.
Okay.
I'm on Amazon, and right now, because of the birth of a lottery, Hush is 99 cents for the next couple of days for ebook. So it's usually
ebook.
Ebook.
Okay.
It's usually $4.99. No, and I will be also at a book signing on August 9th.
Where at?
Beaverdale Bookstore.
Okay, good. All right, I encourage you to pick up a book. It's very rare that I have authors on, but I think if you've stuck with me today, you know that this was good. And I think something Kimberly pointed out is very important too. This is not a Christian book.
No.
This does not make Christian values, I think is what you were looking for.
Right.
It doesn't end up because God said it was that way. It ends up the way humans said it should be. And that should be disturbing to all of us. But it's important that we know that things like this, procedures like this, courtroom cases like this are being fought in the courthouses all across this country without God even being mentioned or thought of or considered. It's a good book. Read it. Kimberly, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Mac.
You bet. Frank, and you've got your Frankly Speaking live coming up.
Yes, 5:30.
And we're going to talk about the bookstore borders.
Talk about our southern borders and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and how Hamas is playing dirty.
Now, we've got 48 hours to either convert, pay a tax, or die.
Well, that's the ISIS demand that they're putting on Christians, I believe, in Iraq.
And it's ISIS that came out last night, I believe, and told President Obama, we're coming for you.
I haven't heard that, but most likely.
Yeah, we're coming for you.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Always coming for you.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, Taste of Hope tomorrow. Hope you come by. Ashworth and Jordan Creek Parkway. Completely free. Food, fun, games for the kids. Face painting. Lots of fun will be there. But on a serious note, before we go, I want you to think of something a little uncomfortable for a moment. I want you to think about somebody you don't like. Somebody that you hold a resentment against. Somebody that you wouldn't walk across the street to say hi to. And tonight, on your knees, ask God to forgive them. And then you can forgive yourself. Because that's what it's all about. Forgive as you shall be forgiven. See you later.